Need for Speed Payback should have never existed. I know it's a very powerful sentence to start off a video, but I genuinely mean it. From the characters to even the customization being annoying to obtain, Payback is a game that, while I don't dislike it, it's a game that maybe needed more time or even rework into a totally different game. It's obvious not that much care went into the first place. There's just so much minor annoyances that affect the overall big picture when it comes to end credits and acts. That's it. I shouldn't feel like I learned nothing when I literally spent 10 hours on the game and playing through the missions and the story, but we will get to that. Now, of course, with Need for Speed being my favorite franchise ever, I do think there is a few things that Payback does positively well, but I also feel like that's offset with a ton of negative things. Unfortunately, I do think Payback is top 3 worst games in the series, and if you really want my opinion, the worst game in the franchise. Before I start ripping into the actual game, I do want to give props to 2 major characters that made my playthrough slightly better. The Gambler, or Marcus, and Mac. Every single time they appear on screen or I hear dialogue from either one of them, I always love their little performances and personalities. Marcus being a typical rich guy, but he nails being sarcastic and have that snarky attitude, while Mac has a very upbeat, excited British attitude that's ready to take on anything. These 2 characters actually have personality, and something that I can associate with different personality traits. It makes the game a whole lot more bearable and enjoyable for me personally. Alright, so now for the main character, Tyler Morgan. So Tyler is just okay. I find him pretty bland, pretty generic as a main character, and that's not totally a bad thing necessarily, but I don't have any interest in him whatsoever. He's cocky, he wants to win, and he wants revenge against Lena Navarro. That's it. That's his whole entire personality. He just wants to win and take down the house. They don't give us any reason to care about him as a character. We know about Mac more than Tyler. Mac's story is he's from London, but he fell into the wrong crowd and he went to Silver Rock to live the American dream. And they didn't even elaborate more on that front. It's just a mess of a character, and it's not even that bad, but it's just so boring. Then there's Jess. She's actually good. Granted, the bar is low, but her having to constantly bail Tyler and Mac out of stuff and gaining intel on the house is nicer character development for her. I like most of her missions. Oh, and by the way, her missions have the most cops in the whole entire game, but again, we will get there. All in all, she's a good character. Rev is another one that comes to mind that's just an old mechanic guy. There's not much known about him neither, but he's pretty chill to his crew, so I like him, but still boring. And see, that's just what I mean. This game gives me no reason to care for these characters. Before Payback, 2015 introduced a good amount of characters with reasonably good personalities, and I enjoyed them all because it gave me a reason to care. They all have their own flaws and strengths, and I like that. But in this game, we don't know anything about them. They are at most okay with a few exceptions. And the main villain of the game, Lena Navarro, confirms my point entirely. She betrays Tyler's crew. She street marks. She rigged races. Like, can you further elaborate on that street smart part? How did she get to know the streets? Why is she so determined to take over Fortune Valley? A few redeeming qualities about her character is she grew up with Tyler, and I thought introducing a side plot with the collector, the broker, and Marcus is interesting within the predictable story. And by the way, I didn't care much for the collector or the broker. I mean, they are vital to the story's plot, but we know nothing about them. To jump off that point, why do all the leads we go up against are basically faceless? And how we meet them is always the same cutscene, just different cars and environments. I like all their different personalities, like Supernova being an annoying Twitch streamer that's the head of the 1% Club, Tyler being Tyler's childhood buddy that's the head of the Silver Six, and even from Pro Street that's declared a Drift King that's the head of Noise Bomb. But how can I tie each character together if I can't even see them? You probably won't even remember what league they are a part of if I never told you. Yes, it's a smart critique, but it doesn't connect me to any of these characters, and it's a shame because I thought the majority of them was cool, but it's still lazy. Anyways, for my next complaint is that they actually log customization like underglow, tire smoke, NOS color, and even horns behind a paywall. Okay, that is an exaggeration, but they try to. In order to get access to these items, you could either play the game and naturally gain shipments, or you could potentially buy more shipments. There is just so many things wrong with this system. For starters, you can't even choose what type of item you want. It almost sounds like it's a loot box of random items that you can get, or you can buy them with real money to potentially get the chance of whatever you want. But it's just so weird to do it like this. It makes me mad that I hardly see nobody else complain about this, because this is a massive hindrance to how we could customize our card. Now, with that being said, you don't have to buy them, as you will naturally get them while playing the game, but it's the basic principle of basically locking customization up behind a paywall. At first, that just sums up something EA would do, and it bothers me so much that you will never get what you want. You can't buy it in the game, you just have to pray that whatever you get is the color you truly want. I'm so happy that he didn't do stupid stuff like this. Speaking of actual customization, they also neutered that. Now, the actual customization is good, it's fine, it's typical. I'm talking about the requirements to get access to actually customizing your car. You know, the thing that makes up half of the fun of a Need for Speed game. In order to be able to customize stuff like hoods, rear fenders, tires, spoilers, screw it, the whole entire car, you got to do stuff like reach 175 miles per hour 3 times, complete certain activities multiple times with a star or two, or even just defeating a roaming racer. And this system absolutely sucks. I get it's supposed to encourage the player to go out and explore its mechanics, but at the same time, I expect these things to already be available to me when I get the car. I shouldn't have to be forced to do these things. And actually, there's really no point in even tackling requirements on them, because you will unlock them while you're mindlessly going from mission to mission, guaranteed. There's some where you have to purposely go out of your way and actually do it, but for the most part, it's utterly useless to tack requirements on things that you're already going to do regardless. So what's the point? It's just giving the illusion of progression and limiting customization. Now, upgrading cars is a whole nother can of worms. First off, you will always have different stats even on the same car in different playthroughs, even if you upgrade it to the max level. This happens because a way you can upgrade your car is by getting cars from each race, or going to the upgrade shop and upgrading cars like that. Now, I will give them this, some players could like this because it always guarantees a different way your game is played in terms of performance. I personally don't like it, but I will give them something to work with. But what I can't stand is how, in order to get the cards you want, you have to spend 3 cards and spin a sort of slot machine to not even be guaranteed the cards that you need. And it's not even guaranteed that it will be the right type of card you need, since you can only choose one and others 2 slots is randomized. So say you're in a multiplayer game and someone just so happened to get luckier than you. They will have a better chance of winning the race than you do, not because of skill or anything, assuming you guys both on equal skill levels, but because they gotten better stats on their cars even if both cars are maxed out. You shouldn't be at a disadvantage because you gotten worse luck. That's actually ridiculous. One last critique about the whole car situation. After every league ending, you unlock cars, but it doesn't tell you which cars you unlock for what series. I unlocked a few cars while being in the off-road series, and I got excited to use, I don't know, a Skyline for example. But it wasn't available for off-road, even though I unlocked it while being in the off-road series. Turns out, it's unlocked for the race series, but I don't know why the game just didn't tell me that I couldn't buy the Skyline in off-road. Or better question, why can't I use a Skyline in the off-road series? Sure, it wouldn't make much sense, but it should be an option for lunatics who want to drive a Skyline in off-roading. These types of decisions annoyed me in Rivals, and it annoys me here too. I don't think cars should have more or less in each series. You have the license, utilize it as much as you can. Now for the map, it's not great. For starters, the map gives 15% of itself to the city, 25% to the left side, 20% to the mountains, and 40% of it to the desert. This is boring. Why is the city so small compared to literally everything else on the whole entire map? I get the whole map is supposed to be more of a desert theme, which in concept it doesn't sound bad, but it's no longer street racing. It feels more like they custom Mac missions a lot more with off-roading and drift missions. The variety of gameplay that Mac has is just way better than Tyler's and Test's missions. With drift missions, they are more often in the mountains while his off-road races is in the desert. I like the idea idea of drift missions being in the mountains because that's just cool, but the majority of the map is desert. The desert does not need to be that large to accommodate for Mac, and it's just annoying. They gave the city section a small amount of the character, which makes the main character Tyler Morgan's part a bit stale with drag racing and just plain racing events. But as a Need for Speed game, it should be more like 30% of the map should be city, especially for drag racing. Maybe dedicate a small part of the city to drag racing. Now, I call the map boring, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad map, but it's just a little silly for the majority of the map is just nothing. Adds another layer of laziness to me. Now for the missions, and honestly, I actually really enjoyed the set pieces of Payback. All the big missions I encountered, I was constantly excited to see what silly explosion or thing they had in store. This game is the very definition of Fast and Furious. You got some missions where we steal cars or we bust some cars out of trucks. It actually is a fun time just being in the heat of things. A few things though. Why does some missions have a timer where they don't really need it? Literally, the very first mission where Tyler is headed back home, he have a timer to get home quickly. That don't even make sense. It makes sense for missions like test passengers to hurry her up, but going home, it's a choice. Another thing is test point A to E missions. I find these kind of boring. We have to go from point A to E just to stand in one place to gain intel and then drive to another point. Like, why can't it be more entertaining? What about giving us a few missions where we have to pick up some secret intel and we have to escape from the police or thug members? Or maybe the finale of each mission is maybe a huge scale police chase where Mac and Tyler have to help us. They proved they can make it happen. They can't do anything better than this? I don't know. Maybe I'm just the only person that doesn't really like these missions, but these are just a little boring to me. Other than that though, her missions are fine for what they are. They also have the amount of cop things in them too. And just adding onto the script right now, it still makes me annoyed that they didn't even bother to hide Tess' face when she's in a car with Navarro. Like, they say she have a disguise on, but I'm literally looking at her character model. She doesn't have anything on. It's a minor nitpick, sure, but I just have to add that onto the script. It's just something that I noticed while editing this. It's just terrible. Like, they literally didn't try at all. Now for Mac's two seriouses, drift and off-roading. I love the drifting in Payback. It feels snappy and fluid. It doesn't feel super loose like in 2015 or too stiff like in Heat. I literally get on the game sometimes just to drift for a few minutes. It's actually addicting. It's incredible how good they made this feel in a game where the handling is top tier. But it's also cool how they gave Mac the majority of the mountains just to simply drift, like in the laboratory for example, and they made it a mission where you go up and down them. Yeah, they cooked here. I give them heavy props with making a better system than almost all of the titles in this franchise other than Hot Pursuit. Now for the off-roading sections, it's fine. They wouldn't be in my favorite category, and I honestly think it's just largely supposed to be filler. And like, the driving isn't bad, it's just a bore. And then now for Tyler's missions where he does race and drag racing, I actually didn't mind these and I had a good amount of fun with them for the most part. Since handling is really good in this game, races doesn't feel miserable and feels really fun to drive, especially when you're a little underpowered. I found it made races more enjoyable. Weirdly, if I get too far or I pass someone, the AI would freak out and I'm alone for the rest of the race. But other than that, races is good. Now for drag racing, it's fine. I like that we pop wheelies when we get perfect timings and the gear shifts. Then for the added risk that they are in the road, so we could potentially get decked by an oncoming traffic car, that's fun too. All in all, I enjoyed Tyler's missions. They are the main course and they did what they're supposed to do. The thing about all of the missions though is there's no reason to come back to the game. I mean, I guess if you want to, you could grind for more cars or customization or even for the missions itself, or do what I do and go into the mountains and drift, but I have no reason to come back to Payback. The whole entire game revolves around going from mission to mission and upgrading your cars. So when you are finished with the missions, there's no point in doing anything else in the game. It points to one very huge obvious issue. Let's address the humongous elephant in the room. There is no open world cops. Let me remind you, this is a Need for Speed title. Need for Speed at its core has always been about driving cool cars, upgrading, customization, and cops. They completely removed the cop aspect of a Need for Speed title and only put them in some missions, mostly test missions. And don't give me the whole speaks about technically there is cops in the open world. These are glorified point A to B missions and just added cops to spice it up. I largely think Payback is a huge embarrassment just for this reason alone. Then to actually have cops in the missions is just bad. Just plain bad. We can have a rhino that also have a problem with randomly popping up out of nowhere and hit me dead in the face, yet we are still moving while they are out of commission. How does that work? We should get an immediate game over if that happened. Speaking of that, cops and missions literally have no drawbacks. We don't have durability, they do. If we get busted, we don't lose anything but time. Cops are a band-aid fix to have a sense of challenge in these missions. You don't lose anything but time when you get busted, and that undermines the whole risks thing they have in Payback. Modern Need for Speed games in general have this issue. Most Wanted 2012, 2015, I believe if you get busted you lose all your money, but 2015 Cops is so weak that you could go the whole entire game without getting busted. And Payback, it only starts to get better when Heat took over. I don't count the run in Hot Pursuit, as the run is strictly a linear action-packed game filled with quick time events. It's really a movie that's told in a game that does it also really extremely well, while Hot Pursuit is a callback to the old Need for Speed back in the day. I just don't feel like it's acceptable for a open world game to not have some type of challenge in it environment. The reason why the run worked was because, as I mentioned earlier, it was linear. I think Payback would have been better if it was a linear title, but that's just my opinion. Moving on from that mess and kind of the concluding factor for this video, I did enjoy the Outlaws Rush, the finale of Payback. It was satisfying running the whole entire map, having past leagues get called in to stop us, but then we just keep going because we like that. Cops, thugs, and also past leagues still chasing us, but then having our own league buddies help out with a admittedly sick cutscene and wrapping everything up with a one-on-one with Lena herself. The whole entire time while Lena kept priding herself on rigging the whole game, yet losing, the collector is trying to bribe us out and make us lose the race, which we obviously don't, and successfully winning the Outlaws Rush once and for all. Yet after all of this, I feel nothing. I'm just like, oh, story's over? Okay. And I think that's Payback's legacy in a nutshell. It just doesn't give the player a reason to care for its story. It's just another typical cliche revenge plot with an extremely predictable story and repetitive missions that you almost want to get to the end of the game quick enough so you can play something else. I think Payback had good ideas, it just wasn't executed that well. I was excited for a Las Vegas setting until literally I realized the whole entire map is desert, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe in a few years I will replay and change my opinion on the game, but I don't see that anytime soon.